We're really glad that you joined us. I am Matt Olin. I'm the co-founder and chief community officer of Charlotte is Creative. There's our logo right there. And with me today are my CIC teammates, Sethu Raval, Michaela Binter, and Melissa Dorsch. I'm so glad that they are all available to be with us today as well. Okay, first and foremost, if you want to take advantage of our Spanish language interpretation service during this info session, our friends Xavier Seminario and Dennis Takuri from Into Languages are here, and Dennis is going to explain the simple instructions to take advantage of this. So I'm going to hand it off to Dennis for a moment here.
Hi everyone. Hola con todos. If you need interpretation, please follow the steps on the screen. First, click on the globe icon in the Zoom toolbar that says interpretation, and a menu will appear for you to choose the language that you want to listen to. If you don't want to hear the original speaker, you can mute the original audio. And if you want to go back to the original speaker's audio, just choose original audio. Si necesitas interpretación, sigue estos pasos. Haz clic en el icono del globo en la barra de herramientas de Zoom, donde dice interpretación. Y de ahí aparece un menú que elige el idioma que quieres escuchar. Si no quieres escuchar el orador original, por favor selecciona silenciar audio original. Si deseas volver a escuchar el orador original, por favor selecciona audio original. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias to you, Dennis. Thank you so much to everyone there at Into Languages for being here today. And again, thank you to all of you for being here today. By being here today, you are taking the next step toward learning more about the City of Charlotte's new Creative Growth Grants. And indeed, today is the day because applications are now open for this new funding source designed to strengthen Charlotte's creative ecosystem by providing financial support to individual artists, grassroots arts organizations, collaborative projects, and other activities that support Charlotte's arts and culture plan. And as you'll learn today, applicants can apply for one of three funding streams. We have operational grants, project support grants, and professional development grants. So before we dive into the agenda, I just want to say that these creative growth grants are more than just funding. They are investments in Charlotte's creative ecosystem. Charlotte is Creative is proud to be administering the application process on behalf of the City of Charlotte, and along the way, we are very intentionally incorporating a strong focus on grant coaching and long-term impact for you, the local artists and the grassroots arts organizations that make Charlotte one of the most creative communities in the world. In alignment with our mission at Charlotte is Creative, we've aimed a creative process that will not only help applicants succeed in this funding opportunity, but also help build stronger skills when applying for future grants, proposals, and open calls. We're also very excited to have assembled a trusted network of local partners, including Civility Localized, Bogues Group, Crown Keepers, La Casa de la Cultural, and Scribe, all of whom are going to be helping us promote awareness and deliver training these next couple of months here. And once the deadline is passed, the final funding decisions will be made by an independent community review panel. In other words, Charlotte is Creative will not be voting on grant recipients as we get to the review stage. So we're going to get into all the details right now. We will likely take about 30 minutes to cover the specifics, and then we're going to turn it over to you to ask questions. And to that point, if you have specific questions during this presentation, you can drop them into the chat. Our team will do our best to answer them as we go, or you can hold the question until the end, until we get to the Q&A section, and we'll do our best to answer as many of those questions that you have as possible. We'll also have an FAQ page on the landing page. So, if you go to the landing page, which we'll talk about later, cltgov.me/CGG, there's going to be an FAQ there, and we'll be updating that regularly. Okay, so here's the agenda. We're going to talk about what are the creative growth grants, who can apply, an overview of each grant type, some key dates, and the upcoming info sessions and grant workshops that I referenced. Certainly the application components is something we're going to cover today, and we want to hit you with some tips for success before we get into the Q&A section. So that's the agenda. Next slide, please. So what are the creative growth grants? As I said, the City of Charlotte's 2025 creative growth grants are designed to strengthen Charlotte's creative ecosystem. We're going to be providing financial support to individual artists, grassroots arts organizations, collaborative projects, and other activities that support Charlotte's Arts and Culture Plan, which was adopted in 2023. Next slide, please. Who can apply? Well, we have basically two buckets here, right? We have individual artists and creative groups. They must apply with a fiscal sponsor, and we're going to touch on fiscal sponsorship in a little while as well. So if you are an individual artist or a creative group, you must apply with a fiscal sponsor, and you must reside in Mecklenburg County. Important distinction here is if you are an LLC or a for-profit business or sole proprietorship, you will not be eligible to apply. You would have to apply as an individual or an informal creative group that's not a for-profit LLC. So it doesn't mean you can't apply, it just means you can't apply as the LLC or as the for-profit organization. You would have to apply essentially as an individual person. The other bucket is grassroots arts and cultural organizations. And for these applicants, we just ask that you provide proof of your 501c3 certification and that your organization is located in Mecklenburg County. Next slide, please. Ineligible applicants would be, as I just mentioned, any for-profit companies, organizations, or groups. Again, if that's you, you can apply as an individual with a fiscal sponsor, not as an LLC or as a for-profit organization. In addition, organizations that received operating funds through the Foundation for the Carolinas in the City of Charlotte's 2025-2026 fiscal year would not be eligible as well, unless they are applying as part of a collaboration with an artist or a grassroots arts organization, and that individual artist or grassroots arts organization would be the lead applicant, not the large organization that received the operational funds from Foundation for the Carolinas. And we can talk more about that and answer questions about that later as well. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to my teammate, Melissa Dorsch, to touch on the topic of fiscal sponsorship. Melissa.
Hey there. So as Matt stated before, individual artists and groups that do not have nonprofit status are going to need to reach out to a fiscal sponsor. And how that works is the grant is going to administer these funds to that fiscal sponsor, and then they will be the ones that will forward the money to you. Your fiscal sponsor does not have to be arts related, and it can really be any kind of nonprofit. There are specific groups out there that are fiscal sponsors. There's also nonprofits out there that if you look them up, you can see that they have a section of fiscal sponsorship. So just make sure that whoever you're going to use understands what a fiscal sponsor needs to be doing. And also the fiscal sponsor agent does not need to be in North Carolina. You can pick anybody that is willing to be your fiscal sponsor. So what we wanted to make sure that you do that when you get your fiscal sponsor, they're going to need to submit some paperwork, which is going to be their IRS form showing that they're a nonprofit status. We want to make sure that there is a letter of understanding between the fiscal sponsor and you, that they understand what their role is, and that they've also agreed to be your fiscal sponsor. The other thing too is a note that we have here is you're going to want to make sure that you start looking for your fiscal sponsor now, because you need to have that information with you when you hit the submit button with your grant. If you look in our frequently asked questions, there is a section on fiscal sponsors. We have a list of some fiscal sponsors. It is just options for you to take a look at. You are also encouraged to do your own individual research to find a fiscal sponsor as well. And again, they do not have to be in North Carolina. They do not have to be arts related. Some fiscal sponsors may, if it is an arts related organization, may want something arts related. But usually you're able to reach out to them to ask your questions and make sure that they understand what your project is and also get the information that you're going to need to submit with your grant. Also, there usually is a fee for the fiscal sponsor, so you can include that in your grant. And that would be something that you work out with the fiscal sponsor, and you can put a line item in that, and your grant can cover that cost as well, too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. Again, we can answer other questions that come up about fiscal sponsorship today and in the future as well. Not to put too fine a point on it, but essentially we are deploying city funds, and in this pool of funds can only go essentially to nonprofits. So if you are an individual artist or a creative group, you would need a fiscal sponsor that essentially serves as that nonprofit entity that those funds can pass through. Okay, so let's pass it over now to Sethu Raval, who can start talking about the categories of these three different grant pools.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So, as Matt mentioned, we have three funding streams for the Creative Growth Grants. If you are an individual artist, creative group, or a nonprofit organization, then you can apply for the Professional Development and Project Support Grant. Each applicant can only apply for one of these three funding streams, and nonprofits are the only group that would be able to apply for operational support. So I'll just go through each of these three opportunities. If you're an individual artist, creative group, nonprofit organization where you have someone that wants to take part in a class or workshop, residencies or conferences, exhibitions, or any sort of career building opportunity, then this grant will allow for you to apply for up to $2,500 to take part in one of these opportunities. While applicants must reside in Mecklenburg County, this opportunity can take place outside of Mecklenburg County. The next bucket is the Project Support Grant. If you are a nonprofit organization, individual artist, or creative group, you can apply for this opportunity and request for up to $20,000. We are accepting new or existing arts and culture initiatives, programs, activities for this grant bucket. So if you have a program or initiative that is already in place and you're looking for funding to continue this program, you may apply for this bucket. Or if you have a new project or a new initiative, then you can apply for this opportunity. This is a grant, this particular bucket. You will want to review the Charlotte Arts and Culture Plan that was put in place and review one of the 8 priorities and select a priority that best advances your project, that best aligns with your project. We do have a link on our landing page that takes you directly to the Charlotte Arts and Culture Plan. The link appears again inside of the application, and there's very clear descriptions of each of the 8 priorities that you can see and see which one best aligns with your project or initiative. If you have questions about alignment, you can certainly join one of our upcoming Q&A sessions or send us an email at applications@charlottescreative.com. We will drop all of these links in the chat. Don't worry, you don't have to write any of this down right now. For the project supports grants, just as Matt said, organizations that received funding from Foundation for the Carolinas operating budget for fiscal year 25-26 are not eligible to apply directly for this project support grant. However, as a lead applicant. However, if you're partnering with an individual artist or another nonprofit that did not receive these operating dollars and they are the lead applicant, but you are a collaborator, then you can certainly be an active collaborator. You just cannot be a lead applicant for any of the 3 Creative Growth Grant opportunities. And then finally, if you're a nonprofit organization, you're certified 501c3, then you may request up to 25% of your annual budget with a maximum of $25,000 for operational support. So this is to cover operational expenses to sustain your organization. This includes rent, staff, administrative costs. And we have a list of all of these items and kind of a detailed list for all three of these buckets when it comes to providing your budget. So if you have additional questions, you can reach out to us about what qualifies or does not qualify in your budget. And again, organizations that receive funding from Foundation for the Carolinas are not eligible for this bucket as well. Okay. We have a number of opportunities where you can ask questions and grow as someone who applies for grants. So we have applications open today. If you go on our landing page, you'll see an Apply Now button at the bottom of the page for each of these three grant funding streams. On June 27th and July 8th, for 30 minutes in the middle of the day, we will be holding virtual Q&A office hours. So this is an opportunity where if you have a question, you kind of need more time to talk it through. Maybe the question isn't being answered over email, then you're welcome to attend one of these Q&A opportunities. You'll have a team member from Charlotte is Creative, some of our arts and culture collaborators, community collaborators on this call helping answer questions. On July 14th, we will have an in-person 3-hour grant writing workshop. So this is a really exciting opportunity where we have our partners over at Scribe LLC, DG Serves, Diane Gavarkovich, and a number of our community collaborators there to demystify the grant writing process. So this is absolutely essential and will be really helpful when you are applying for this grant opportunity. But we are hoping that a lot of the takeaways you can apply to future opportunities that you plan to go after. So again, 6 to 9 p.m., there will be a panel discussion, breakout rooms, an opportunity for you to bring your note-taking device, your laptop, your iPad, and come and work on your grant application with your peers. The registration link for that and all of these will be on the landing page. And all of these opportunities are free, of course. And finally, if you cannot attend, if you're unable to attend the in-person workshop, then we invite you to our virtual grant writing workshop with Scribe and with Diane on July 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. So we have a number of opportunities where you can engage, ask questions, and learn more about this opportunity. And then finally, the application deadline is August 4th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll go into some more details about that in just a minute. After applications close, we will be working with Civility Localized on building community panels that will review all of the applications. Applicants will be notified by late September, and funds are scheduled to be dispersed by November of this year. Projects must be complete and funds must be used for all grant recipients by November 14th of 2026. So you will have 1 year to complete your project. If you do receive this grant, you will have 1 year to use all of the funds. And then finally, for all the grant recipients, we'll provide them with a report. And those final reports are due January 31st, 2027. Feels like a long way from now. All right, and then finally, the application components, again, applications are live, so we really invite you to, right after this info session, click on the opportunity you're most interested in, click on all of them if you're curious about all of them, and get a sense of all the questions that are asked. Each application asks for really specific contact information, and then there are grant-specific narrative questions as well. We encourage you to think through your goals, to be specific, to answer questions fully. Again, for project support grants, please take time to review the priorities in the Charlotte Arts and Culture Plan, and you will have that opportunity to select how your project advances one of the priorities, and there's a narrative question around that as well. Each of the three grants has a budget table that you will fill out directly in the application. There's not a template to download. The budget can be filled out directly in the application. It tallies all the totals for you. There's a column where you can add additional notes and explanation. We really encourage you to use that, as our reviewers will be reviewing the budgets really carefully. And so any additional notes and context that you can provide is helpful. Finally, the applications will have an opportunity for you to upload, if you're a 501c3, upload your letter of determination. If you are an individual, you'll upload the IRS letter from your fiscal sponsor and their letter of support. And some of the applications also have space to upload some supporting materials. We are using the free submittable platform to take applications. And after this, I can share my screen and kind of show you what that looks like, but it's really quick and easy to create a submittable account. And you can also save your draft. So if you want to work on this slowly, you're welcome to save your draft as you go. And just please submit before the August 4th deadline. Matt, I'll kick it back over to you.
Thank you, Sethu. Appreciate it. Okay, so some tips for success that we've learned over the years. We want to share with you and give you as much sort of a leg up as possible. So number one, start early. Start early. Yes, the application closes on August 4th at 5 p.m. But our strong recommendation is that you do not wait until late July, early August to do this. We want you to have the strongest application possible. And our experience is that the sooner you start and the more thoughtful and sort of time you give yourself to do it, the better. You don't want to be scrambling at the end. So start early, give yourself time to submit a quality proposal that is complete and thorough. And take advantage of these information sessions and the grant writing workshops. They're there to help you to strengthen your proposal, to strengthen your skills as an artist or an arts group that applies for funding. So attend those sessions. Come to our Q&As, whether they're in person or the virtual grant workshops. We're here to help you. Definitely read those application guidelines closely and follow the online form instructions, and provide all required documents and information. Like Sethu said, the budget template is built into the application, so that is designed to make that portion of it as easy as possible. And the IRS documents and letters from collaborators also, don't wait to ask for those. Go ahead and start getting those lined up now. You don't want to be scrambling near the end to pull those things together. There are a limited number of one-on-one grant coaching sessions. These will be virtual sessions that are going to be available with our collaborators over at Scribe. And you're going to be able to sign up for those at the landing page, which again is right there, cltgov.me/CGG. These are going to be offered at a first come, first served basis starting today. Importantly, you will need to confirm that you meet full eligibility requirements before you can sign up for one of these virtual grant one-on-one grant coaching sessions. We just want to make sure that these sessions, they're limited. Not everyone's going to be able to get one because they're limited in number. And so we're asking that each person who's interested in that is going to have to answer the eligibility requirements question before they can actually schedule one of those sessions. Let's move on to the next tips page. Tips 2. Set specific goals and describe what success looks like for you if you're awarded this grant. Our experience is that when you really articulate those specific goals and really take time to illustrate what success looks like, it really resonates with grant reviewers. And so be really thoughtful about that portion of your application. Write clear and concise answers and be as specific as possible. I think that the word limits will be very clear as you are typing in those fields. And So be aware of the word limit. And also bullets do help. It really is very helpful in times, these sorts of text fields, to be able to ingest the information in a bulleted format versus, a long paragraph. So just think about opportunities to include some bullets, which just makes the review process easier for our reviewers. And for the project support grants, definitely review the priorities in the Charlotte Arts and Culture Plan. We offer tons of links over to the Arts and Culture Plan, so it's going to be very easy to link over and review those priorities. But we are going to ask you to choose one specific priority in the Arts and Culture Plan that you believe aligns well with your project idea. There'll be opportunities in your application to talk about maybe other priorities that your project aligns with as well, but we want you to select one specific one that you think is the best fit. And then on to the third and final tips for success screen here. Again, read those questions now, pull together those letters of support, those business documents, and if necessary, your fiscal sponsorship information as soon as you can. Do not wait and scramble. We've seen this before, and it's just, you can avoid that unnecessary heartache by starting to pull those things together now. Make sure that your budget really sort of underscores the same story that your narrative answers are relaying to the reviewers. Just be really sort of thoughtful about the way those numbers that you're filling out in those different fields and line items in the budget, that it lines up nicely with the story you're telling in the text portion of it. We think it's a great idea to ask someone that you trust to read your application before you hit submit. Someone who's going to be able to say, hey, this part is strong, but I think you can be stronger in this section. We want, as we say, the broccoli in your teeth friends to step forward and help you in these moments. Someone who's not afraid to tell you you can do better in this section or that section. So strongly consider asking someone you trust to read your application before you submit it. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but I can't emphasize it enough. Plan ahead and submit that application hours, if not days, before the deadline. You want to make sure that it uploads properly. And we've all heard those horror stories of people submitting at the last possible minute and then the server crashes and whatever. We don't anticipate that sort of issue, only because Submittable is such a reputable platform. But still, don't wait till the last moment. Get it in sooner than that. It will be better for you and for all, for sure. Let's, Sethu, you want to wrap us up with the presentation?
Yes. Hi. We are going to move into our Q&A section. But again, I'd love to emphasize that there are a number of ways to get in touch with us and ask questions, and to get more information about these grants. So we will again have two virtual Q&A opportunities. This will be very much like this Zoom, where we will not go through this entire deck, but it'll be an open dialogue. You can pop on for 5-10 minutes, ask your question. Somebody from our team will help answer it. So again, those dates are June 27th and July 8th. And you can register at this link, and we'll drop some of these links in the chat. I know the chat is going. So those will be 30-minute sections. And then our email address is here as well. So applications@charlotteiscreative.com, and someone from our team will answer your questions within 2 business days. So any questions, just feel free to ask. Again, on our landing page, we have a lot of information. So I highly encourage you to check that out before asking the question. We have an application overview document in English and in Spanish. We have an FAQ document, frequently asked questions document, and we have all of the links to register for these info sessions and grant writing workshops. After any of our virtual info sessions or grant writing workshops, we will also be placing the recording up on the website. So if you want to revisit this recording, or if you have a friend who wasn't able to make it, please let them know that they can revisit this information as well. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A, but before I do, we're going to let one of our Spanish translators join us again. So let me just...
And I think maybe, I know that folks are adding questions to the chat. We're going to answer as many of those in there as possible. If you have a question, as Raven has just done, go ahead and use the raise hand function. And we will try to call on you, and we'll just try to get to as many questions as possible. Any questions we don't get to, we will try to answer in the FAQ section. If we don't answer your question, please feel free to email us, as Sethu said, at applications@charlottescreative.com. And also, we may not know all the answers today. This is a new funding source, a new grant making pool. So we may not know the answers, but what we can promise you is if we don't have the answer today, we'll get the answer to you very soon. So there may be times when we say we'll get back to you, and that's just part of it as well. So with that, Sethu, did we get one of the interpreters back into the main room?
Yes.
Great. Should we just start calling on some hand raisers?
Yes, Matt, if you can do that, and then I may chime in with a couple of questions from the chat.
Okay, so the first name I see is Raven Johnson. So Raven, if you want to take yourself off of mute and ask your question, and then you can mute yourself again.
Sure. Hi, Matt. Thank you all for this information. It's been pretty helpful. I have two questions. Hopefully they're short. One is more so of a logistical question about the funds. So is there a certain amount of people you guys are awarding, or is it until funds are exhausted?
We do have sort of a target number of grants that we're hoping to give out in each of the three categories. It's basically math. We've worked really hard to determine specific grant amounts that are a meaningful amount of funding in that category, while also trying to spread these funds out as far and wide as possible in the ecosystem. So it was a thoughtful process along with the city where we determined these grant amounts. And so we do have target, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but we do have target numbers of recipients that we're hoping to hit in each one of these categories.
Awesome. That's helpful. And then my last question is, I'm not sure if you can give any examples or if there's anyone on the site that cites like past winners. I know arts can be like very broad, and I think we can be very creative in terms of what we apply for, but I would love to hear some examples of like people who have won in the past and projects that were funded in the past.
I mean, if it's a really good idea, we will talk about that internally, only because this is a brand new grant making program, so there have not been previous winners or recipients in this particular grant program.
Okay.
But we can talk with the city. There may be opportunities to offer some examples from past recipients. We'll look into that for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's go to Shane Manier.
Hi, beautiful people. So I have a question. We've been running a poetry program in Charlotte at the Mecklenburg County Detention Facility, but our nonprofit, the address is listed as Cabarrus County. It's me. I also reside in Cabarrus County, but there's a co-teacher that goes in with me that lives in Mecklenburg County. So how would we apply for a project grant? Would it be her that needs to apply since she lives in Mecklenburg County?
Yes, I think it's safe to say that your co-teacher would have to be the applicant,
Okay,
given
and
the criteria.
can the nonprofit though still be the physical sponsor for her for the project grant?
Yes, because the nonprofit doesn't have to be based in North Carolina to be a fiscal sponsor. It would have to be based in Mecklenburg County to be the applicant. But
Gotcha.
if the nonprofit is serving as the fiscal sponsor, I think it's safe to say that if the nonprofit is not in Mecklenburg, I think that's okay if they're just serving as the fiscal sponsor.
Awesome. Thank
I'm
you.
going to ask my CIC team to chime in and disagree with me if I
No,
say
that
anything,
is
if I say anything
correct.
is not right.
No, that is correct because for example, Fractured Atlas is not in North Carolina. Lots of grants sometimes reach out to them. So yes, as long as just make sure that your fiscal sponsor understands the responsibilities of being a fiscal sponsor. Make sure you do some research on that to ensure that you understand. And as long as they're willing to do it and you have that letter, then that should be all you need.
Thank you so much, Shane, and thanks, Melissa. Let's go to Stacy Young.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my question was pretty much in regards to the project support grant. If it's awarded, can the project that's being executed sell tickets, or the project has to be a free project or event?
No, you are absolutely welcome to sell tickets, and I think there's even a line item in the budget where you can, indicate earned revenue sources, which would include ticket sales. So that's no problem.
And then last thing, can the grant go towards like marketing materials and things of that nature?
Yeah, Sethu, do you want to talk about the admin cap in the project budgets?
Yes, there is for the project budgets that are up to $20,000. There is a 15% cap for administrative costs. So if that's personnel or administrative fees, but you will see in the budget template, we have added fields for hopefully almost every category that you could think of. And then there are areas where there are blank spaces as well where you can add certain costs.
Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy. Okay, let's go to Michael Coey with Lorien Arts.
Thanks. Hey, Matt, and team. Quick question, which actually maybe ties in with the first question. I was curious if it has any relationship to the infusion fund, and specifically in regards to if we were an infusion fund recipient, does that disqualify us from this grant?
It's not specifically related to the infusion fund. If you received a grant through the infusion fund, I don't think that disqualifies you. I think the only thing that would be disqualifying would be if you received an operating support grant in the current fiscal year from Foundation for the Carolinas, which is also city funds, but that flows through Foundation for the Carolinas and the Arts and Science Council. That's, I think, the only disqualifying criteria. But if you've received like an infusion fund grant in the past, like from Sethu, what was the name of the
Opportunity fund?
the opportunity fund? Yep. If you receive something that's not disqualifying. Okay. That answers your question. Let's go to CT Anderson. Hi, CT.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think this question, I know the answer, but I've read the FAQ and I've looked at the chat and I'm still not clear. So I'm maybe asking something that's been answered.
Okay.
My organization is a nonprofit. We would probably apply for the operating support, but my board may have approved me to be supported as a fiscal sponsor for the creative grant, the individual. Is that allowed?
I want to make sure I understand the question. So, are you saying if your nonprofit applies for operating funds, can your nonprofit also serve as a fiscal sponsor for another applicant?
Yes.
I think that is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you can be a fiscal sponsor and you are able to apply to this fund as well too.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go to Tiara.
Hey Matt, hey C2. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, so I have a question. So it's for the project support grant. So I was looking at the professional development and the project support, but the project that I want to do, it's very community orientated. So like I'm trying to do community print sessions and artist talks. But in order to do that, I have to go outside of Charlotte to meet with some of the artists, but also go to some of the workshops because I intend to use the knowledge from those workshops and bring it back to Charlotte. So like, can I apply for the project support grant and include that on there?
I think so. Sethu, your thoughts on this? Would that be part of the 15% sort of admin portion of a project budget, do you think?
It could. Tiara, we can also talk offline about the specifics, but yes, I would say, since what you're putting together is more than just a professional development opportunity for yourself, and there's a project in addition to that, then you can add the travel costs or any of the admin costs that it takes to do this work, to your project support budget.
because the goal for this project is to do like an intimate artist talk, like so I plan on hosting this in the print studio that I work at, but like the goal is to really educate people on the opportunities that are out there for printmakers and like the professional development, but also taking the time to even teach people who don't know anything about printmaking some printmaking techniques and hosting artist talks.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. It does. It does. It helps a lot. But it's good seeing you
You
guys.
too.
You too. You too.
Thanks for being here.
I don't see other hands up right now, so maybe we just start to tackle some of. Well, I just lied. I see Lauren McDowell. Sorry about that. So Lauren,
Sorry.
no, all good.
I just wanted to ask if we were to ask for a smaller dollar amount, do you think we'd be more likely to receive it if there's like a major pool, or are you kind of trying to hit a number of awardees? Yeah, if the dollar amount would increase likelihood is the question.
It's a hard question to answer. I would say that the amount of money being asked is not a scoring criteria for the review panel. So I don't think I can safely say one way or the other, like if you ask for a lower amount, would it increase your chance of being awarded the grant? Yeah, I don't want to lead you astray. So I just think just don't even think about that. Ask for the amount of money that you think is the right amount of money for that project or what have you. And just, make the case for it in the application and the rest will be in the hands of the review panel.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Stacy, it looks like you may have another question.
Yes, I'm so sorry. So my question is for the project that I'm working on, it will be starting in January of 2026. So that means that we're kind of going to go ahead and get a head start on it prior. So if we go ahead now and spend funds on this project, can the grant also act as some sort of reimbursement for us as well?
Stacy, can you repeat when the project is taking place, like when the funds are actually being used?
So the project is taking place in January of 2026, but I know the funds will not be allocated until November of 2025.
Right. So you can apply, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can go ahead and apply for this opportunity and the earliest the funds would be available to you would be in November of this year. However, you would have an entire year to use those funds. So the
Yeah.
funds would need to be used by November of 2027.
Yeah, and I think her main question is if she spends funds on this project prior to receiving the funds in November, can she reimburse herself for those funds? And I think the answer is yes, that you could reimburse yourself for those funds, as long as they're, the project related expenses that you indicated in your budget.
Got you.
And of course, knowing that there's no guarantee that you would receive the grant, so you'd have to go
Right.
into that just wide-eyed. So, but yeah, I don't see any issue with that.
Okay, and one more thing. So I'm having the event in January, but say for instance, if I'm awarded the grant, I want to pretty much do the same event again later in 2026. Would I be able to do that considering that it would be the same event?
I think so. Yeah, I don't see any
Okay.
reason we wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I know there's no way we'll get to all the questions in the chat, but we can try to tackle some of them, and then others we will, add to the FAQ and what have you. But Sethu, how do you want to do this? Do you just want to kind of start scrolling down and tackling some of these?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I have my dog barking in the background and the leaf blower, so this is going to be really fun.
I do not hear either of those.
Oh, good. Okay.
Sethu, just so you know, there's a lot of questions that I've been able to answer. I'm trying to answer at the same time. So for some of them, you may not see an answer to. I try to put their name in front of it so you can see that it's been answered. I try to do it right afterwards. So hopefully you
Okay.
can scroll
And
a little bit quicker through that.
I'll pick a couple at random, and they'll be good for the greater good. And again, like Matt said, if we don't get to your questions, then we will be sure to add some of the answers to these to the FAQ if they're not already there.
And you can email us at
And you can email us.
applications@charlottescreative.com. Yeah.
That is right. Okay, here's a question. We are a nonprofit whose mission is more about addressing economic mobility and holistic health, but we have a creative initiative we want to start. Can we apply for funding?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes, absolutely. As long
Great.
as that project is arts and creativity related in some way, it's it's aligned with the goals of this grant making program.
That's right. Is it allowed if an individual wants to apply for a project support grant with a fiscal sponsor who would also want to apply for operations support grant on their own? So if I'm understanding the question correctly, if you are an individual and you want to apply for a project support grant with the fiscal sponsor, you can, and that fiscal sponsor can also apply for their own grant opportunity, and if it's a separate project. Does that help? Okay. Stacy, do you still have a question or is your hand?
I think that's
Okay, is that from earlier? I just
from
want to
earlier.
make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. If you are a new nonprofit who has not filed in a fiscal tax year, what other documents would you accept? So, Amy, the answer to that question is that we need to have the IRS letter of determination. So we will, let's connect afterwards, but we can even, what we haven't done already, which we will, is pull up an example of what that looks like, and we'll put it up on the application page so you can see exactly what we're asking for. Okay, I'm just scrolling. Since our event is scheduled for September of 2025, but the funding decisions with funds released in November, would we then apply for our next annual event in September of 2026? Lal, the answer is yes. The event cannot take place before November 14th of 2025.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just scrolling. Are nonprofits able to be fiscal sponsors to multiple individual artists? The answer is yes. These slides someone's asking if they're available for us to email. We will make sure that this deck, along with the Spanish translation, is available for download next to the application guideline. So we're going to consolidate everything that's available for you on our landing page.
I'm going to chime in and call on Miko McCarthy, who has his hand raised.
Hey, so I was listening at when you were saying some operation expenses. Is the two types you can do, like I guess your actual plan, then you can go in and do operation expense. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, just for specifics, if you don't mind?
Would this be with regard to a project support grant?
Correct.
Yeah, so the project support grant is allowing for up to 15% of what you request to cover admin related expenses, and which could be everything from, rent or what are some other, I'm going from memory, but I mean, safety, what are some
Personnel,
other line items that we have?
staffing
Costs,
Mhm.
even the fiscal sponsor fee that you would pay would fall under that 15%. If you're an individual working through a fiscal sponsor, there'll be a fiscal sponsor fee there. That could be included in the 15%. So anything that's not specifically related to the project, right? The project itself, more operational stuff, that's where you will list those expenses. The other expenses, the additional expenses there, 85% would be project related expenses specific to the creative project that you're applying for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We had a question here, and I think we answered it earlier, but I wanted to make sure it was clear. Are you only able to apply for one grant or multiple? Only one application per applicant. So again, you can be a collaborator on another project, but if you are a lead applicant, you can only apply for one of these three opportunities.
Let's call on Justin, whose hand just went up. Justin, are you there? I see you're unmuted, but I don't hear you, unfortunately. So we may ask you to drop your question in the chat or email it to us. What other questions?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
There you are. Yep.
Sorry about that. I had a little technical difficulty. Yeah, so speaking of the collaborative component of it, I have a studio at the Arts Plus facility, and we already have a nonprofit set up with it. I'm a muralist, so I just decided to paint a 20-foot mural in my studio because I wanted to. And I wanted to use it as a platform to help me get jobs. And I know you talk about the for-profit aspect of it. Several artists within this facility have come to me to try and learn how to paint murals, and they want to use this for their own portfolio to get jobs. So I've spoken with the Arts Plus facility, and they said we can paint the hallways to help them get a portfolio building resume. Would that fall in that category of profit or nonprofit? I'm just trying to see the.
So obviously, as an artist, there's nothing wrong with you earning money to doing your creative work in the world. In fact, we advocate for that all the time, right? That's very important. The key here is that a for-profit entity cannot apply for these funds, right? So that's where we're trying to sort of walk that line where, your LLC cannot apply for these funds, but that doesn't mean that you can't apply for project funds to do a mural project. And part of your budget is that you receive funds, for your time and effort working on that project.
So yeah, that's what I. It's not necessarily about getting funds for for a time for that. It's just I wanted to see if it would be better for all the artists who are wanting to paint the walls to apply individually to get. The biggest thing we're trying to figure out is just to get paint to paint with, because painting murals obviously takes a lot of paint. So we were just trying to see if it would be better to do the more individual route, that it's not necessarily like a collaborative team, but we're mostly just doing everything individually ourselves in one space.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure exactly how to answer it because, you could have a lot of individual artists applying to work in that hallway and some get funded and some don't. So thinking through the implications of that on the overall vision of how you want the hallway to look. But I'm not sure. Seifu, do you have a thought on about this one?
The only thing I can think of is that, and we may just want to email or talk offline, Justin, but if this is ultimately going to be like a creative group of artists working on a project, then you would apply with, a fiscal sponsor and then have a budget for this entire project. So that would include supplies for everyone, maybe a stipend for everyone. But it would be formed as one project that this collective is working together on. But again, maybe you reach out to our email address, or you come to one of the Q&A sessions and we can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Great.
Thanks, Justin. Let's go to Renee. Renee down. Renee, go ahead and unmute yourself if you hear me and ask your question. Okay, we can come back to Renee. Any other questions that you want to address in the chat, Sethu?
Yes. I'll ask or I answered one, but one it's helpful for others to hear. The lead applicant needs to be a Mecklenburg County resident, but does the collaborator. So the collaborators can be located outside of Mecklenburg County, but the lead applicant for your project or program needs to be located in Mecklenburg County. Someone's asking, if your organization has two projects, do you need to focus just on one and apply for a project grant, or is it okay to apply with both projects? Matt, do you want to answer that? I can.
My recommendation would be to focus on one project. I think that that's going to land stronger with the review panels.
That's right.
Yeah, to keep that your vision focused and your ask focused.
Is a project by definition a single entity? For example, if you're planning on a series of events, would the grant have to be applied to just one event only?
No, a project can be a series, absolutely. So it doesn't have to be one event. It can be a series of events. Just, paint the picture, share the vision, and something compelling that really sort of illustrates what the goal is to the review panel.
How is the review panel selected?
Well, we're working with our partners on that. We'll be working with Civility Localized and Crown Keepers and La Casa and others to sort of identify community members who will be great review panelists. Sethu, anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, the panel will be made up of folks from the creative community, the business community, the nonprofit community. And we're working with a number of partners to identify individuals that could be great for that review process. The application requires uploading the organization's 2024 990 for nonprofits that have an extension. Is it acceptable to submit the 2023 990 instead?
I'm so sorry. I was reading questions and I missed the
That's okay.
question.
The application requires uploading the organization's 2024 990 for nonprofits that have an extension. Is it okay if they submit the 2023 990 instead?
I think so. I think you would have to show that you've officially applied for an extension on your filing. I think if you can show that you've applied for an extension and then at that point you can submit the 2023 filings.
If a nonprofit is seeking and needs funds to operate and that are not already in place of operations yet, can we apply for these funds? So new funds for operations.
Yeah, I think that that's fine as long as they're considered operational funding, even if it's for a new component to your operations. I think that it would be eligible.
Great.
Again, I welcome my team to push back if I missed it.
No. I'm reading through, and I think most of these have been answered. If there's anyone else that wants to raise their hand, maybe you put a question in the chat that did not get answered, feel free to raise your hand and we can call on you.
Yeah. And of course, we have more sessions coming up, as it shows right there on the screen with some little squiggly blue lines on it, which I think is funny. The virtual Q&A opportunities are coming up as well, June 27th and July 8th. These are short laser sessions, right? 30-minute, get your question, dip in, dip out, get your question answered. That's what these are intended for, and you can register for those at the landing page. So this is by far not your last chance to get your questions answered about the Creative Growth Grants.
Perfect. And these were really great questions. We will definitely, again, be sure to add any questions that are not already on our FAQ. We'll add more. Oh, there's one more I'm gonna answer, and then we can let folks
Yeah.
go. What is the maximum amount a person can apply for the grant? So there are 3 buckets, 3 different grant opportunities if you are applying for a professional development grant, the maximum is 2,500. If you are applying for a project grant, the maximum is 20,000. And if you are a certified 501c3 applying for operating costs, then the maximum amount is 25,000, or 25% of your annual operating budget. Miko, did I answer that question? I think you asked it twice. Just wanted to make sure. And we have, again, all of this on the deck that I will be putting up on our website.
Yes, you did. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
All right, everyone. Well, I guess with that, we're happy to send you off into your day, your beautiful Juneteenth day. We're so glad that you were able to spend some of the day with us learning about the Creative Growth Grants. And again, tons of opportunities to interface with us to boost those application skills, get your questions answered, sign up for one-on-one grant assistant, application assistance, and the like. So, thank you again for being with us. We will post a recording of this on the landing page soon. And get to work, folks. We know that these funds are really needed in the community, and we're really excited to be a part of getting them out into the community and supporting you all along the way. So thank you again, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.